And welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I find out how police are supposed to act, because right now, they're totally terrible. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and joining me today, my friend, longtime YouTube colleague, I suppose, Weebo Jones.
Thank you. Hold the applause till after the show. Hi, guys.
Oh, they will. Yes, everyone. Finally, trying to go down the list of all my YouTube compatriots to join me on the TEDxcellences, and today I get Weebo. Yay, Weebo! So Weebo, for those that may not know who you are or what you do in your copious amounts of free time these days, tell them, who are you? What do you do?
Well, that's a flat out lie. I have absolutely no free time. But in my free time, what I like to do is I like to film videos criticizing the social and political community on their shortcomings, of which there are many. I also like to criticize movies from time to time. And sometimes people pay me to do that. And sometimes that results in an 8-hour movie marathon of the Human Centipede, where I die. On other days, I like to stream with Polydub on Saturdays. We do a completely random talk show where we don't come with anything planned out, and the show is completely random. And sometimes we go for 3 hours, but it's a good time anyway.
And all of that and more can be found by following the links in the description to Weebo's YouTube channel and her Twitter account, if you'd like to follow her there.
I have some spicy hot takes, I will admit.
Yes, well, that and certain interests of yours that I'm at least partially aware of is why I wanted to have you on for this particular TEDx today. But we'll get to that in a moment, because I want to say hello to everyone who has joined us for this adventure. Mr. Unite for the Children. What? Mr. Unite for the Children. Hello, that one sort of is Tanya. Hello, Mark Ponicky. Hello, Matt Barnes. Hello, Keenan. Hello, Nostos Logia. Hello, Zaubla. Thank you for the super chat. Little Dogcat Fox with little hearts around it. Thank you. Raziel. Hello. The Useless Cook. Hello. Tall Person. Hello. Corey Suzuki. Hello. Advocatus Diaboli. Hello. GC. I transposed words because they're letters because my brain is off. Wade Wilson. Hello. Okay. Everything jumped, guys. I'm sorry. Chat jumped and my brain went sideways. Biggerit, hello. Joe Fapps, hello. Kiefer Dam, hello. Roger Reynolds, hello. Sabian 187, hello. Deco, hello. Johnny Stoffel, hello. Adabisi, hello. Nobody Not Me, hello. Rhythmdinian, hello. Mike R, hello. Starsaver, hello. Dark Remedy, hello. Brad Young, hello. Formerly Rodline, hello. Tall Person, thank you so much. Happy National Harvey Wallbanger Day. Ingredients: vodka, Galliano liquor, and orange juice. I've never had a Harvey Wallbanger. I've listened to Harvey Danger a couple of times.
Yeah, I've never had one either.
Yeah. Duck Dog, hello. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Corey Suzuki, thank you so much. The Dream Police, they live inside of my head. Yeah, coming up with a name or a thing for the thumbnail was very difficult with this one, because I told the story last night on Lords of the Night that what I do for those is I think of words associated with the video, and then I try to find like an idiom or a rhyme or something that's kind of clever. And so I was thinking cop. What rhymes with cop? And then I came across... Well, here's the thing. So, I guess the joke only works if you have a relatively good working knowledge of 80s hair metal bands.
I don't.
Then never mind. Anyway, let's see. Anybody else? Lexi Mads, hello. Just Paul, hello. Emperor WR Costin, hello. P Dog Knight, hello. Officer Buck Todd Russell, thank you so much. Backwards Hat, Radical Dude. I know. Weebo's totally tubular, like for sure. And this is Kyle. Thank you so much. Hello, chat people, Scribbles, and Weebo. Hello, Kyle.
Hi.
Marcus Gallagher, hello. No One Nowhere, hello. And if I missed you guys, I'm going to call it there because I have too many hellos and not enough time. And we got to get to this because it's very important that we find out today. Reimagining police for the good of all. Now, Weebo, I think I'm not incorrect in that you have some prior experience with law enforcement.
Correct. I used to be a police explorer when I was still eligible to be a police explorer, because there's a certain age limit to that. And I went to state and national competitions where we would do police procedure the way that they taught us and against other explorer groups and try to one up them. And basically, there were scenarios that were simulations that were exactly as you would expect them to be in the real world as a police officer, except, of course, they were fake and no one actually had any danger of dying.
Sure.
But it was still nerve-wracking as hell, and you still had to think on your toes, and you still had to mock cop, essentially. So I'm not gonna brag, but your girl did win some trophies a few years running, so I'm not half bad when it comes to my police work.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you here. I've done several videos in the past on concepts like restorative justice and abolition of police and defund police and things like that. So I'm curious to see what our speaker has to say, if he says anything about those subjects, because like all other TEDx's, I go into them entirely blind, save for the high-level subject matter. Thank you, Adebisi. Scribe told us he had a criminal in mind to be well-versed on this topic. No, I said I had someone well-versed in criminal justice. Thank you, Officer Buck, again. Rather too many hellos and then too many goodbyes. Yeah, it's been a sad day for another 2020 loss. Alex Trebek passed away last night. Lord of Jeopardy. But we won't dwell on that. We'll probably talk about that on Lords of the Night tomorrow. But for now, guys, we're going to start the show. So as usual, I will start. Oh, by the way, also have your bingo cards ready. Who knows what we'll have? We might get a bingo today. Link is in the description. And so on to the video. I will start off as usual with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed.
To walk through life in America as a Black man is to feel expendable.
Okay, starting off strong.
I heard that.
Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. So happy the Weebo is here. A cool surprise. Surprise.
Aw.
You guys hear that all right? Let's see. What is a bummer? What's a bummer? Scanner Daffley, are you not a Yankee? It's a bummer. Let's see. Did he? I'm sorry. What? Okay, that ruined my day. Oh, what is a bummer? I see. Oh, the Jeopardy thing. Did you guys not know? I thought that was all over the place. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I had to be the bearer of bad news. That was not my intention.
What's a Jeopardy? I'm too young for that.
P-Dog says bullshit. I'm assuming you guys have heard it. So, all right. So, to be a Black man in America is to be expendable, I believe is the sentiment. All right.
That is some strong starting words there, buddy boy.
And to feel like prey.
To feel like prey. Okay.
At 8 years old, my father was pulled over and pulled out of his car.
Okay, that sounds like a childhood or family anecdote. So over on the bingo card, I'm circling free space and childhood or family anecdotes. Yeah, see, we've refined the bingo card down to the most common elements of any given TEDx talk. And if we get a bingo, there's a little celebratory video I play. So we got 2 squares circled so far. We'll keep in mind the others as we go. But I have a feeling this is not going to be a happy childhood anecdote. Just guessing.
Well, I have a question about the bingo stuff. How do you know that if someone gets a bingo, they're actually like legit in their bingo?
So here's the thing: a lot of the items on the bingo card are very like blatant. Like if someone says the word equity, if they say the word privilege, those are easy. There are some concepts on there like mind reading / assumes motives. That depends on the content of what they're saying in their argument, or let's see, systemic, institutional. Sometimes it depends on the aggregate of the presentation. Like maybe the person never said marginalized or marginalization, but maybe the sentiments they expressed over the course of the presentation comes to that. And we kind of assess that at the end of the show. Okay. Now, the only time where I get really, really sticky with it is if there's a square where it's a debate about whether or not something is valid for it in the course of the episode, but it's the square that will make a bingo.
Okay.
So the last thing that'll make a bingo, I always get very twitchy and I say, okay, chat, give me a good argument. If you can find me a good argument, and all credit to them. My audience is very, very honest. Most of the time, they don't just go for a bingo because we can go for a bingo and just fill up a square for no reason. It's very, very scientific. Very scientific.
But like, do they, I don't know, twit they're bingo cards, and then you have to like go and check them, and
no.
honor system?
We do it. I mean, I do mine, and then we do it sort of as a group as we go live.
Oh, okay.
So we're doing it as we go. And then, I mean, we have had some debates before where I haven't circled something. I said, I'm not convinced. But I mean, if somebody wants to circle their own and make their own bingo, they can. It just wouldn't be official canon.
Oh, okay. So the bingo card is the same for everybody.
Yes. There's one bingo
Gotcha.
card in the description for the show. Yes.
Gotcha. I thought maybe you were generating a different bingo card every time someone clicked on the link.
No. If you click on the link, you get the image that I've uploaded. I after like 3 or 4 episodes, I might jumble up the squares again, but the link to the video will always be the bingo card for that video.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. No, this is Weebo's first time, guys, so be gentle.
This is my first time.
Thank you, Mikhail, the Driving Ape Man. Another great Canadian lost. Yeah, Canadian. I think he had dual citizenship, but certainly Canadian first. But anyway, okay. Moving on back to the 8-year-old childhood family anecdote, which is going to be, I'm sure, very sad.
The police officer turned his attention to me and said, "Get your little black ass out of the car and on the ground." At 12 years old, I was repeatedly beat with a policeman's flashlight.
Wait, but I have a question.
Yes.
What do you do?
Well, I guess maybe we'll see if he tells us, because if he doesn't tell us, we get to circle the square that says leaves out vital context.
Okay.
Also, there's also a square in here that says anecdote that probably never happened. Now, that's one that's always very debatable, because it's like that. The classic example is, my 5-year-old walked in today and told me, "Mom, thank God there will be no more children in cages thanks to Trump being out of office." Something like that, right? Anecdote that probably never happened. Now, that one's tougher to judge sometimes. So in this instance, could I believe that a police officer said that to an 8-year-old kid at some point? Yes, because people are racists, and but without any other context, maybe. Was he beaten with a flashlight when he was 12? It's I don't have any reason right now to say that he's lying, so I can't say that's an anecdote that never happened.
Yeah.
But if he never tells us the circumstances under which these things occurred, but he still continues with these as sort of primary examples for his argument, then we circle leaves out vital context.
Yeah,
it's science.
So were these two separate incidences? Miss United for the Children, or Unite for the Children asked in the chat, the 8-year-old traffic incident and then the 12-year-old beating that he received.
Yeah, these are two different incidents he's citing. Yeah, he was in the car with his dad. Dad was pulled over. The cop told him to get his ass out of the car, and then several years later, apparently he was beaten with a flashlight. Okay,
and some rapid succession.
As he yelled, "I hate you, you black son of a bitch." At 15, I was thrown to the ground. My pockets were ripped open because they thought I was selling drugs.
Okay. So far, nothing he said has made me think he's out and out making those things up. And at least in the third instance, he gave us a little bit of context.
Still wondering where he was beaten with a flashlight. It sounds like something you could go to IA for.
Well, and I mean, the implication there was he's being beat up just because he was black.
Yeah.
And of course, the implication by his opening statement was that all these things happened just because he's black.
But you could still sue the department.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
I don't know.
The officer then threatened me and said I should throw you in the back of my car and dump you in the Delaware River.
Okay. Well, I don't know much about how the police operate over in Philly, I'm assuming. Or thereabouts. But, okay.
You've heard similar stories.
Yes.
But these are my stories.
Yes.
I've only had 3 positive experiences with police officers out of my 40 years on this earth.
Okay.
And what has been normal?
Wait. 3 out of how many? 3 out of 6? So 50%?
Yeah. Well, there's another. Okay. Well, I may have to take it back later if he goes into more detail, but given the 8-year-old incident and the 12-year-old incident, I'm circling leaves out vital context. Also, like Weebo just said, like 3 out of how many encounters? Like, were those bad 3 the only other 3? Not that they're like it balances out or something. But circling leaves out vital context.
But
Let's go.
If you're a decent human citizen person, you're not going to, odds are, going to have a great amount of interaction with the police.
Yeah, like I could probably count on. Well, given my apartment building and some of the things that have happened, it'd probably take me a hand and a half to count how many times I've actually had interactions with police. But it's always been like me reporting something, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but and I'm 41 now. Yeah. So
I've
maybe
not
5
had
times.
that many either interactions with the police outside of the Explorer program. So
Yeah.
ideally, if you're keeping to your own and you're not a dickbag of a citizen.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that you can't be profiled accidentally, mistaken identity, something like that could happen randomly.
Well, certainly.
Okay. But anyway, let's see.
Long been unacceptable.
Let me back up a little bit since I cut them off.
And what has been normal has long been unacceptable. But I find myself in a time where there's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
We can burn down the school to prison pipeline.
The school to prison pipeline. Have you heard about the school to prison pipeline?
Oh boy, have I.
Yeah, that used to be actually a square on the bingo card in one of its earlier iterations. I took it off because it came up so infrequently that it wasn't really a common element of TEDx's. But school to prison pipeline, if he doesn't say something more direct eventually, I think he might already have. I'm probably going to circle plays victim at some point. But yeah, school to prison pipeline is such a weird conspiracy theory that I've done several videos on at this point. And for those of you that don't know, this is the baseline theory of the school to prison pipeline. Schools are, by their policies and punishment enforcement and involvement with law enforcement, depending, are structured to disproportionately target children of color for disproportionate. Excuse me. God, I lose my voice.
You okay there, Scott?
No, it's fine. Disproportionately target them for punishment in school for minor offenses. And this criminalizes the child, sets them up to become criminals in adult life. And therefore, you're piping in kids from school into the prisons because prisons are for-profit institutions. And it's one big conspiracy theory to turn non-white kids into criminals, to make them villains, and then give profits to white people somewhere. That's kind of how the theory works. Almost in every presentation or argument about school to prison pipeline I've ever watched, they conveniently always leave out the role of parents in raising children and or participating in their education, which is always interesting.
I feel like, yeah, it's kind of important to implicate the parents in the upbringing of a child because you spend a lot more time with your parents than you do at school. Although I will say you do spend a lot of time at school, and teachers do impart a great deal of influence upon a child. So it's especially a joint effort, methinks.
Yeah, at least a symbiotic one. And depending on the kind of teachers, especially these days, the teachers kind of take on they assume a position of parenthood in a lot of cases, it seems like.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
With the COOF in full effect and people remote learning completely,
mm-hmm.
How exhaustive do you think, not exhaustive, how much of the school to prison pipeline do you think will be dismantled by?
That is a good question. That's a good question. Are we going to see just by dint of the circumstances, you'll see a drop in school-related police action just because kids aren't there?
Well, naturally, yes.
But I don't know who or how such things are tracked for like juvenile delinquency and that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. But I guess it would be interesting to see if there is a distinct drop in such cases during the course of homeschooling this year and onward. Thank you, Jaeger Pony, for the donation. No comment. Thank you so much. And Jaeger Pony, thank you so much for retweeting the show as you always do. I appreciate that. All right, moving on.
And change what policing and the justice system has become.
Okay. How?
Undeserved killings of innocent people.
Yeah, okay.
Gratuitous arrest of Black men.
Uh-huh.
Handing out life sentences like candy.
Gonna need some examples on that one.
We have prime examples. Our vice president is in office, isn't she, for her incredibly important work as a prosecutor.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And
yes.
putting people away for life for minor drug offenses.
That is also true.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least in that instance, he's not wrong.
Well, see, whenever things are brought up like this, I'm like, okay, you would never find me saying that our criminal justice system is perfect, because no system is perfect. However, if you're going to say that it's all bad and it all needs to go, my immediate next question is, and replace it with what?
Exactly.
And almost to a one, I have never gotten a straight answer when it comes, especially in the restorative justice theory of things. Like, okay, we don't want to get rid of prisons. Prisons are bad. Like, okay, what do you do with Ted Bundy? What do you do with Bernie Madoff? What do you do with Dylan Roof? What do you do with these people?
You have to re-educate them.
Yeah, but okay, we'll see what he says. I mean, maybe this guy will be the one. Maybe this guy will be the one that actually offers. Sorry, what?
I was just gonna say lobotomies for everybody.
That might be the only way, but maybe he'll surprise us and give us an actual answer. Even I'll take a bad alternative versus no alternative in these speeches.
Yeah, same.
As if throwing away a life is a solution to generations of system injustices.
Okay, that wasn't quite systematic, but that is systemic, close enough. So systemic, institutional, circle in that one.
Did that make no sense to you either? Generations of system.
Yeah, we have a square called word salad. I'm gonna put a pin in that little bit there, and if we get more down the line, I'll circle word salad. I like to wait for something substantive, irate bear, to show up first. Usually. Unless it's something very direct. We'll see.
Okay.
I know this system firsthand.
Uh-huh.
You see, my parents were both young when I was born.
Okay.
And so I was raised by my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother had 9 children.
Wow.
That's a
and
lot.
there was 15 of us living in a 3-bedroom house.
Good God.
Some were on drugs. Some were alcoholics.
Ew.
Some were in and out of prison.
Uh-huh.
And some even dulled their pain by torturing me and making me understand that I was nothing.
That really sucks, dude.
Your family home life sounded like the worst.
Yeah, okay.
But what does this have to do with poor policing?
Oh, I guess we'll find out. And just to keep in mind, we also have a square called weightless example. Just in case it needs to be explained, that's where they bring up an example of something that actually doesn't either contribute in any way to their point. So just keep that one in mind too, as we get those quite often as well.
So birth control is an issue in chat, Marcus Gallagher says. Yeah. You're right. You're not wrong.
I was abused physically and emotionally daily.
Yeah.
I was bullied, beat up, and put down. I can recall one time sitting on a blanket reading a history textbook, and someone came up behind me and pulled my pants down and said I should rape you.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, okay. Terrible, terrible home life childhood. And this deals with reforming policing.
Make it make sense there, brother.
Yeah, not to be insensitive. I'm just wondering where this is going.
This was from my most cruel and frequent abuser.
Okay.
At 12 years old, I wanted to die. And I knew exactly how I was going to do it.
Okay.
And I would set my soul free.
Uh-huh.
One day, my uncle put an AK-47 in my hands and asked me how did I feel. I said, I feel like God.
Okay, thank you for the break there for a second, Mr. Tickle Trunk, for the super chat. Based on the actual literature, most of our social influences / socialization are from our friends growing up, second by family, third by schooling.
It changes, actually. So at your very formative early years, it's your parents. Then as you get older, it's your friends and social influences, and then it's your schooling. And then it switches at a certain point when you become more dependent on your friends and social influences than you do on your family for to be raised, essentially. But there is a flip there at some point. But in all cases, I do believe schooling would be the third.
Yeah, now, as many people have been watching my videos and TEDx's for a while now, there's a movement effectively of teachers who believe that they are the secondary parents, that they are the mentors for bringing children into the right way of thinking and sending them forth into the world as activists and advocates and change makers. So that dynamic may be changing through ideology right now. I'm frightened and curious at the same time to see what the current crop of students become in the next 10 or 15 years.
But yeah, if he was 12 when this happened, it kind of puts some context into why he was being questioned by the police.
Yeah.
At Nicholas in the chat makes a good point.
Yeah. All right. So terrible, terrible things, getting ready to off yourself. Obviously, thankfully, you didn't. And this is taking us to police somewhere.
There was a power knowing that once in my life, I was in control.
Because you held on to an AK-47. Oh. For those of you listening in your car or something, he's now got looks like an old, well, not family. I don't know, it might be a family photograph. It's arrows pointing to, I'm assuming, him with a bunch, three other guys, and all doing gang signs and things. So
no, they're just flicking off the camera, it looks like.
Yeah, that could be. Sure.
At least the one guy on the side is.
From being an abuse victim to hurting innocent people.
Oh.
Because of the vicious cycle of pain that was inflicted upon me.
No.
That's not a defense. I'm sorry.
No. He didn't hurt other people because, well, that's no justification for that.
Yeah.
There's no amount of pain that you could experience in the world that would ever justify anyone else being hurt by your own hand. That's just not that. That's not how that works. Sorry.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
If I was beaten as a kid, that does not then justify me beating up my wife as an adult.
No.
It just doesn't. I mean, now, depending on the circumstances, I could see a judge or something taking someone's home life or upbringing or whatever else as mitigating circumstances, depending on what's going on. But that's not an excuse. Now, admittedly, we're going to let him continue, and maybe he's not going to make it an excuse. So, but just the beginning of it sounded like I did this because of this. Like, yeah, you say that, but is that
pain fostering more pain?
Uh-huh.
I was a talented track athlete.
Okay.
With all of the accolades.
Accolades.
But I could not escape my situation until I was 18.
Okay, I'm going to pause for a second because I'm going to circle plays victim. And I'm circling that because it's now, again, if he goes back later on and says something more in detail about it, but otherwise, just then, I didn't do those things because I'm a bad person. I did those things because somebody else hurt me. That doesn't wash with me. It really doesn't. Especially if he's looking back on his childhood from a more grown-up perspective. That's not taking responsibility. That's looking for an excuse. So I'm circling plays victim. We'll see where he goes. Maybe he'll come back later and say something like, I know now that, or something like that. But we'll see. Let's go over the bingo card in full just as a review real quick. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic. Not specifically, no. He's mentioned, well, at the beginning he did say, as a black man in America, I am this, that. But he was talking about himself. He didn't say something like, we invented rap or something like that, right? I've seen those before. Equity, he hasn't mentioned it. Toxic, no. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, not yet. Well, he's talked about, He's implied profiling, which is unconscious bias or could be considered such. We'll wait on that one. Privilege, no. Contradicts own point or argument. He hasn't actually made one yet. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example, maybe. We'll see. Wage gap, no. Feminism, no. Marginalized marginalization, no, not yet. A list. He hasn't given us a list yet. We'll see. White supremacy, no. Word salad, maybe. We'll weigh on that one. Self-vilification or wretchedness, not yet. Maybe, not yet. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Well, his entire talk is based around race, so everything applies then until there's unless he brings up an example where it doesn't make any sense. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, not yet. Mind reading assumes motives. Every example he's given so far has been someone explicitly doing or saying something to him, so we'll see if he says something else. Benevolent condescension, kind of, with the whole you're immediately a victim if you're a black man in America. I'll wait, maybe there'll be more. Anecdote that probably never happened, not clearly yet, no. So what we have circled so far, free space, systemic institutional, childhood or family anecdote, plays victim, and leaves out vital context. Well, let's see where we go.
I was taken to the train station by my mother and my grandmother, who knew I had a chance at a better life with a new start.
Okay.
I was given one suitcase, one Ziploc bag full of money, and told good luck.
Okay.
As luck would have it, I would end up in North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
In North Carolina, I had 3 children. I was married, divorced, homeless, sold drugs.
Okay.
I did everything in my power not to go back home, but more importantly, to stay in school.
I'm getting a real mixed message going on here.
Stay in school, kids. Deal drugs
Yeah,
instead of doing them.
Yeah, get married, have kids, get divorced, sell drugs, but I really mean to stay in school.
Everything else is secondary, obviously.
And get my life on track. And this has what to do with reforming policing again? Okay.
Oh, that was what we were talking about?
Now, trust me, I have had TEDx's before where the label does not match the contents. So this might be one of those. I don't know, but I'm dying to hear it. Let's see. Luke Skywalker 2. Scribeblade, didn't he list the times he interacted with the police? Oh.
Yeah, doesn't that count as a list too?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Luke Skywalker. That is a list. Circling a list on the bingo card. Very good. Yeah, that's true. And see, this is why my audience is so valuable to me, because my mind is going all over the place trying to process this stuff sometimes, and it helps having a separate whole separate sets of ears and eyes on this stuff so we can get an accurate bingo count. It's important. It's science. I keep telling myself that. Okay.
School for me was a safe space.
Oh, a safe space. That used to be a bingo square too, I think. Safe space.
It allowed me to see the future.
A future as a drug dealer?
A drug dealer who was going to school at the same time.
Yeah, with 3 kids.
Hey, you know what? He's got to make ends meet somehow.
North Carolina, I guess, yeah.
Future. I received my bachelor's degree in 2007.
Okay.
And between 2010 and 2011, I met and married.
Again?
Okay, wait, was this before or after? Did you list off all those events before in like the aggregate of your time since going away from home, or did they all happen
prior to this?
Yeah, so maybe, okay, well, there was another list of the things that happened to him, so maybe he's now giving us the chronology after listing off everything that happened when he went to North Carolina?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay.
The love of my life, Shakira.
But is this the person you divorced, or is this the next wife that you had? I know.
And we had a son, KJ.
Okay.
And in 2012, my family and I moved to Abu Dhabi. Where my wife took a job.
Yeah.
in the government schools,
Mhm.
and I was finishing up my master's degree to become an English professor.
Okay.
While dealing drugs, right?
Where are so were those the first two of the three kids, or did you have another three kids somewhere back in the state? I'm very confused.
I am as well. Like, did we just forget about the ex-wife and the other three kids he got? Did you just contribute to the school to prison pipeline culture and then just hightail it out of there?
Or the love of his life, she's still the love of his life, even though they're divorced, which might be kind of creepy.
A little bit.
Okay.
We lived in Abu Dhabi for 5 years.
Wait. Did she divorce him because he was dealing drugs to stay in school?
There is a whole soap opera we are writing for ourselves right now.
This guy's life is.
This is confusing. Okay. All right. So, all right. Let's keep going.
And had many beautiful experiences.
Uh-huh.
And my youngest son, Amir, was even born there.
Okay.
But out of all the lessons that I've learned while living there,
yes,
the one that impacted me the most was my interaction with the Abu Dhabi police officer.
Okay, we finally get back to the police. Okay, so after you were dropped off at the train station, you ended up in North Carolina, and you either had a wife and divorced that wife and then got a second wife.
Wait. You forgot about the three kids, the drug dealing to stay in
school.
No.
Well, I was going to talk about the kids. So I was listing them off in categories. So wife, divorce, new wife, or wife, and you divorced her sometime down the road. And either you had 3 kids and then found a new wife and had 2 or 3 more kids, I can't tell which, or these are all the same people and you're currently divorced and you have 3 kids.
And then they moved to Abu Dhabi.
I feel like I'm trying to break down the time paradoxes between Back to the Future movies or something. Okay. So the Abu Dhabi police, what happened with the Abu Dhabi police in Abu Dhabi?
You see, I was 7,553 miles away from home.
Okay.
But still filled with the fear that comes with interacting with police officers and being a black man.
That sounds like a you problem, but maybe that's just me.
No, it's not just you.
Okay.
Will I be killed?
What?
If I make a sudden movement? Will I be arrested if I don't understand his commands?
I don't know. I guess you'll tell us. Thank you, Bacala Driving 8 Man. This guy is a walking Law and Order episode. I'm not quite sure what our speaker is. Yeah, he's given us a very lengthy backstory that took him half of his entire TEDx talk to tell. And now, finally, just about halfway through, we get to the purported subject of the talk. So let's go.
Attempting to soothe myself, I closed my eyes and I counted.
Okay.
I hear a tap on the window. I roll my window down.
Yes.
Then the officer said, "Hello, my friend. How are you?" He extended his hand for me to shake. I did not know how to receive his words or his actions.
You don't know how to say hello or to shake a hand? Because
no, that's a foreign concept. That's only something that they do in Abu Dhabi.
Now, I will say I can't recall American police very often extending a hand, but saying hello to somebody or how are you doing today or what's up, buddy, or something like that. But yeah, shaking the hand of the driver if you're pulling them over, I don't think that's usually police procedure.
No, it's not. If you get pulled over by a police officer, it's probably one of the most dangerous things a police officer ever engages in because there are so many variables.
Right.
And it literally could be anybody. I mean, wasn't Ted Bundy pulled over at one point by a police officer?
Oh, yeah.
Police officer just kind of let him go while he had a dead body in the back seat.
Oh, yeah. No, there's many, serial killers, all types of things where it's just like you don't know who it is.
Exactly.
There's one of, and it sounds odd to say this, but I've talked to my audience before. But one of my favorite serial killers is a guy named Randy Kraft, and Randy Kraft was one of the various guys who got the name the I-5 killer back in the 70s and 80s. And he was an absolute monster. But how was he caught? Well, he was driving down the road and he crossed the center line for a second, got back in the lane. Cop saw it, pulled him over, and noticed that the guy in the passenger seat was dead. Because he was driving the body off to dump somewhere or do something even worse to it before doing so. Yeah, just random chance. So yeah, you don't know. And when you watch these, if you guys ever watch these real life police videos, one thing you'll notice more often than not, and Weebo, feel free to tell me if I'm completely out of sorts here, is that as the police officer walks up to the car, they'll put their hand on the back of the car somewhere.
Yeah.
To leave their fingerprints on the off chance that the person runs or something else happens, and there's at least some physical evidence that car belonged to that encounter.
Yeah, straight up. That's something that we were taught in our training, was that you leave a fingerprint on the back of the car that you're pulling over in the event that it needs to be identified later on down the line, because no one thinks to clean the back of their car right after every police encounter. So
yeah.
We also do stand at an awkward angle away from the driver. Typically, we take one step in front to check to make sure the VIN matches what we're being told, or the registration, and then we step right behind the driver on their shoulder side, just to kind of make it awkward for them when they're looking at us, because that awkwardness is an advantage for us in the event that they pull a weapon.
Right. Yeah.
And we can still see everything going on for the most part.
Exactly. Okay, but anyway, so our friend here, he was pulled over, and the police officer said, "Hello, friend," and offered his hand to shake. Okay, customs and policies different in a different country, but okay. So it was an immediately non-threatening, friendly opening exchange. All right.
And I asked, "Why did you stop me?" He said, "Because you look lost."
Oh,
they're so cute.
You see, the world looks different when you feel like people see you and respect you.
Okay, I'm going to go circle reading. Mind reading assumes motives.
I guess that counts.
Yeah, because apparently he assumes that police officers otherwise don't see you and don't respect you because they're police officers.
His eyelids look super heavy in this video. It's not just me, right?
No, no. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Quote, "I moved from a poor inner city area to a not so poor area, therefore USA cops all racist," unquote. "I do, however, applaud him for getting his life together." Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he finally got, got a master's degree to become an English teacher and everything else. So yeah, on that score, good for him. Which is also why it's surprising to me that he hasn't, at least not yet, gone back and taken responsibility for the bad acts he did instead of blaming it on his treatment as a child. Because that shouldn't count. I don't think he'd give anybody else that courtesy if they were to visit violence upon him for some reason. So, yeah. But other than that, yeah, if he's got a family and he's a teacher now and everything, good for him.
Is he counting his interaction with this cop as like one of the three that he had that was a decent interaction, or?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think Adebisi, why respect though? I mean, respect somebody just as the basic, I guess, respect of interaction or something, but I don't know what he means beyond that. Respect needs context. Thank you, Piccolo. Driving 8-man blind press just walked in and her BS meter went off. I'm not surprised, but okay. So he had a positive interaction with a police officer in a different country, and it underscored for him how all the other police officers are inherently terrible, I guess. Okay.
Respect was the key.
Sorry, I got to back up and cut him off. Try that again.
Respect was the key.
I
am now back in America, working in Marin City in education. Marin City is the only identified pocket of African Americans in a county of mostly white affluence.
Wait, so he is an educator and he used to be a drug dealer? You really can do anything in America, guys.
Thank you. This is Kyle. Yeah, the world looks different when you're in another country. What point is he making? I'm not sure, but he just, I'll give him a second maybe to explain, but telling us that the part of the town or whatever he's in has a population that is mostly African American. I'm about to circle, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, unless he gives me a reason as to why that's significant.
Yeah, I gotta say, I agree with laughter is deadly. Look at how that man dresses, and he wants respect. Who would wear those pants with that jacket and that shirt? Just who?
Well, our speaker. All right.
I cannot. I physically cannot.
Was the key.
Yes.
I am now back in America,
Mm-hmm.
working in Marin City in education.
Right.
Marin City is the only identified pocket of African Americans in a county of mostly white affluence.
So only black people live in Marin City?
Yes.
The only pocket. Okay.
But like many others, I'm hurting right now.
Why?
And especially scared for my 2 younger sons who have autism.
Okay. Tell me why.
In the first marriage or the second marriage?
Or the same marriage? Because are you still married or are you divorced? And that part is going to stick with me throughout this entire thing and afterwards if he doesn't explain. Like, have you had
You'll
2
have
wives?
to get used to disappointment.
I know.
Will they be killed if they don't understand a command? Or will my 14-year-old, who is 6'2", be viewed as a threat because of his skin color and his size?
Okay, so I'm going to be circling microaggression / unconscious bias, because he just basically laid that out, and make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. I thought he was going to say something to the effect of, like, Marin County is the only pocket of African Americans, or sorry, Marin City is the only pocket of African Americans in the county, and yet 90% of our police force is white, or something like that. I mean, at that point, I would at least say, okay, well, race mattered to his example, whether you want to take it for what it's worth, but he didn't do that. So I'm not quite sure what your city's demographic population has to do with anything. So circling, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Let's see. Okay, we'll keep going here.
Nothing is more emotional than knowing that you are at risk every day of being killed by a police officer.
Do you think fearing without justification or being paranoid is a healthy way to either live or to pass down to your children?
Alternatively, nothing is more terrifying than living every day knowing that you might be killed by a falling vending machine.
Well, there's also nothing more terrifying than thinking you might be killed during a traffic stop that you're conducting.
Mm-hmm. Or by a toppling refrigerator.
Sure.
Or by a shark.
Why do your kids, okay, your kids have to worry simply because of what they look like? Because you, who grew up in a terrible situation and went on to become a criminal for some period of time, had bad experiences with police. Okay.
Hello, my friend. You look lost.
Yeah. Hello, my friend. You look lost. And then everything changed. But then nothing changed because that just made everything worse, I guess.
I feel lost.
I feel lost.
Because of your skin color.
Yeah.
It does not matter if you are in your home asleep or playing in your front yard. There will come a time when I am questioned how I am able to live in this neighborhood.
And not fear vending machines.
In your experience with police officers, did they ever talk about stuff like this?
About the race relations between the community and it was touched upon, but to be quite frank, in my trainings, it was less of an issue.
Sure.
And the main thing that we were taught was you are interacting with a person on what is probably not a good day for them.
Right.
Because anytime that you have to interact with a cop, it's not going to be a good day, most likely. Right. It's probably In some cases, it could be the worst day of your entire life. Let's be honest. And so going forward with that as a police officer, it gives you some perspective on what it is the mindset of the people that you're interacting with is like. So you do go into that situation with a little bit more compassion, with a little bit more patience, but you also have to go into it cautiously.
Right.
With the idea that, hey, you're helping people, but those same people in an instant can turn around and kill you if they feel like the situation's not going their way.
Right.
And so it's less about race and it's more about your survival and about doing your job to the best of your ability.
Thank you, Bacall, the Driving Ape Man. I am terrified a hippo will eat my soul. Is that a Canadian thing?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe Canada's just sick with hippos. Sorry, necromantic hippos.
It should be taken with a grain of salt, everything that I say, because the last time I was at one of these trainings was 2 years ago, and a lot has happened since then.
A lot has happened in the last 8 months, let alone the last 2 years. But okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're very paranoid. You're very concerned about being stopped by police still. Okay.
Especially in today's climate.
Yeah.
African Americans are often asked by well-intentioned white people, how can we fix this problem?
Well, since most of the times I hear about horrible experiences or accusations that an entire racial demographic is inherently a target, as you've done yourself, and since, like Weebo said, and like anybody else who doesn't really involve themselves or end up being involved with police very often, I don't know, but you have a perspective that I do not. So if you're saying that there's a problem, what would you say is the solution? I mean, that's usually, and this counts for so many things that I've seen going on lately. It's like you hear a list of, intersectionality just as a concept. There's this problem, this problem, this problem, and they all stack upon one another. Well, what would you say to address these things? I did a video a couple of years ago where some people were asked exactly that. There was a stage with a panel of people, and they'd been talking about intersectionality. The moderator kind of stopped them and said, okay, well, I get intersectionality. There's all these, crossover, overlapping oppressions and things. What would be the first 2 things you would tackle? She asked these 4 people. Your top 2 things to tackle, top 2 problems to solve towards this. And I swear to God, silence. In fact, I was able to, and without too much trouble, insert a sound clip of crickets playing in that silence. It was so long. Because come up with anything. It's like, your top 2, and even the moderator was like, seriously? What? And so, yeah, you are asked that question because I have a feeling you're the first one telling people that there's a problem. So now, if you don't have an answer, saying I don't know is a legitimate response. Like, there's a problem. I don't know what to do about it. Okay, well, that's at least honest. My question will be, as we proceed in the next couple of minutes here, do you at least have an idea? And if you don't, what do you think needs to change, even if you're not sure how it should? That'd be my only other question. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. He talks like the situation hasn't changed and it's still 1980. Also, quote, I fear being struck by lightning every day, therefore the threat is real, unquote.
That's what I was making about the vending machines.
Right. Yeah. Living in paranoia, whatever it is that you're paranoid about, is not a healthy way to live. And it's certainly not a healthy way to pass on mindset to your children, who I would hope are not living in or experiencing the same kind of trauma that our speaker did when he was growing up, and therefore aren't either involved in or adjacent to the kind of situations that might cause you to have interactions with police more often than not. So, okay, yes, well-meaning white people ask you what to be done about it, and you say.
But how can African Americans fix a problem that we did not create?
That's not the question. That wasn't the question. What would you want to have happen to fix the problem, or what problems do you see that need addressing? It's not weird. It's not, hey, you, what's the problem you have? Okay, you go fix it. If they're well-meaning white people, it was an interesting phrase, maybe they're trying to offer their help to you or work with you to find a solution. Did I mishear the question he said he was asked, like what they should do about it?
I don't think so.
Let me back up just a bit, just make sure I didn't leave something out.
Today's climate.
Right.
African Americans are often asked by well-intentioned white people,
yes,
how can we fix this problem?
How can we, or are you saying they're saying, how can you? Because I don't know what you mean in the context of we, because it sounds like a collaborative effort, not a accusatory one.
But how can African Americans fix a problem that we did not create?
I don't know. How does someone find the cure for polio? I mean, he didn't create it. How did he find a cure? I don't know.
No. Only the creator of polio can cure polio. Obviously, everyone knows that's the only way that works.
I guess. Well, I mean, after a fashion, if the same force that created polio created the guy that cured polio, then technically the force that created polio was cured by the force that created polio.
Giving me a headache.
I know.
Many in power still don't acknowledge. I wish this was a time.
Many in power don't acknowledge what?
That polio is a really, really
bad
issue.
Right, that you can't solve the problem you didn't create. Okay. So then it is white people's problem to solve?
Yes.
It's white people's fault that you are paranoid about police. Okay.
For talking it out.
Sorry, I cut him off again. I apologize.
It's a problem that we did not create. And many in power still don't acknowledge. I wish this was a time for talking it out, but it's not.
Okay, well then what action needs to be taken? And if talking is not supposed to fix it, so you've given up on diplomacy or negotiation. Okay.
It's a time for action.
Well, speaking is an action. Talking it out is an action. What are you suggesting otherwise?
We must change the point of reference in the narrative between law enforcement and communities of color.
What does that even mean?
I will give him a chance here to expound on that. Otherwise, I'm circling word salad. If not for this, then for the aggregate.
We must now do the hard work of disrupting systemic racism.
Okay, I'm circling word salad.
Circle it.
Yeah, word salad is being circled, and if it hadn't already been, systemic would also be circled at this point. Okay.
But we have to admit the issue starts at the top.
Okay, so you've identified. Okay, the issue starts at the top. What does that mean? And what is your solution? And if you do offer a solution, how are you doing that since you didn't create the problem? Okay.
In my work in Marin City,
yes.
I see possibilities.
Okay.
And those are
in my role as a community school manager.
Yeah.
Of the Sausalito Marin City School District, we have created the Marin City Public Safety Initiative.
The Marin City Public Safety Initiative.
Fancy, shiny new words.
I can't count that as a buzz phrase or buzzword because it's like an organization, but we'll see.
This initiative is to help strengthen relationships between communities of color and law enforcement.
Why would you want to do that? Law enforcement can't be trusted. They hunt black people. I mean, okay, how? And I'll take the fact that he has an organization that's trying to fix the problem or at least alleviate the problem. Okay, how? Because you've just given us absolutely no hope whatsoever all the way up through Abu Dhabi that such a problem could ever be solved, plus the fact that the problem can't be solved since you didn't cause it. So what does this initiative do?
Historically, Black residents of Marin City have made countless statements of being racially profiled.
Countless statements.
Countless statements.
Oh,
not just several, but countless.
Now is the time to reinvest resources and right past wrongs
What?
that were caused by law enforcement in racial interactions.
How?
Through this initiative, law enforcement will host monthly courageous conversation.
Oh gosh.
Courageous conversations. You know, and I believe, and I'm not being facetious here, that phrase is the name of a program that another subject of a video I did went into. So a while back, the superintendent or the chancellor of New York City Public Schools spent something like $750,000 on diversity programs in his district or in his whatever area. And one of them that he spent like $500,000 on or something was some sort of self-help organization called Courageous Conversations. I think that's what it was called. I'm wondering if this is an offshoot of that, because that's a very specific phrase I don't hear very often. Okay, courageous conversations. Will you tell us what a courageous conversation is versus just talking about the last baseball game or something?
It seems too difficult.
To address both past and present racist encounters.
So a kind of restorative justice model thing, I guess. But I thought the time for talk was over. Yeah, I'm not asking a question. I'm just kind of saying.
Various law enforcement agencies, such as the Southern Marin Fire District, have agreed.
The fire district. Okay, well, I guess there are fire laws. Is the fire department considered part of law enforcement? I suppose they are. I don't know. It sounded odd to me. Is that accurate, Weebo? Do you know?
I can't say for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess you always think of them sort of hand in hand, but I rarely ever think of the fire department as law enforcement, although obviously they do enforce fire codes and other things.
I mean, they have the department. It's not a department, but they have arson investigators.
Right, yeah, arson. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
But beyond.
Anyway, I don't need to get off on a tangent. It just kind of stuck my brain for a second, is all. Okay.
To host civic engagement workshops for our youth.
Ooh, is that more talking? What does a workshop do?
To discuss how local and county government operates.
So shouldn't you learn that in civics class in school?
Okay, so I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Discuss how things operate. We got a lot of firsthand knowledge about how police work was conducted and the logic and reasoning behind police work when we were explorers. And I do think that helped me gauge like my interactions with police officers going forward and the way that I understood policing to be. It definitely gave me some perspective, and I think that could be helpful. But I don't think workshops is the way to go about doing that. I think instituting some sort of ride-along program would be beneficial for the community.
Oh, maybe I'll do that.
Enhance recruiting more people into Explorer programs, not just so that you could get a whole bunch of new cops into the system, but so that you could get people to interact with police officers, to understand how things are done, why things are done the way that they are, so that you can foster some sort of community relationship between the PD and the community itself. Aside from they're just our overlords, we have to abide by what they say.
Thank you, Andrew Joyner. Do these guys ever look at statistics? Black guys are more likely to be killed by other black guys than police, and overall more white people are shot by police. In this instance, I mean, he's not talking about deaths necessarily. He's talking specifically about police interactions with people. So in that instance, I would have to see statistics about specifically police and that kind of thing. I know I've seen them in the past, but I can't think of them now. So he's not off base by focusing on this one thing, because having a good relationship with law enforcement can prevent other crimes. So if there's a belief in a community that the law enforcement is out there to hurt you, more crime is going to occur, because not only are people not going to call the cops when they need help, they're not going to trust the cops to tell that something's wrong before a problem occurs. So he's not wrong there in that sense. This isn't, or this is not useful. But okay, so we have courageous conversations and civics workshops or whatever it was. So
courageous conversations. I just can't get over how stupid that name is.
Yeah, yeah, like I say, it's the same brand name as another guy that I did a video on before. So I'm curious.
And the Department of Probation has agreed to host job fairs, networking events.
Okay. What you want the people in your community to be employed by law enforcement or the legal system?
I mean, it makes sense.
Sure. Okay. All right.
But contrarily, officers don't typically prefer to live in the exact communities that they're patrolling.
Now, why is that? I always thought that was more beneficial, because you think of the old time like beat cop who like lived in the neighborhood and knew everybody and that kind of thing.
So imagine you're a cop,
okay,
who lives in the area that he patrols, and you've arrested a whole bunch of people for ridiculous shenanigans, for violent stuff, and you're out with your little boy who's 3 years old, grocery shopping, and you stumble upon someone that you've arrested before, and they recognize you. You don't know how they're going to react to seeing the man or the cop that arrested them with a 3-year-old. So it's a separating work life from home life type of thing.
Does the fear of that scenario supersede the benefits of having someone who knows the people in the territory as watching over that part of the territory, do you think?
For the individual cops, it does.
Okay.
Because they're not thinking about the good of the community when weighing it against the good of their family and the safety of their family. The safety of the family and the cop will always come first to the cop, rather than the good of the community. Always, 100%. That is the way that is typically, because that we're humans. That is a human thing to have happen.
Yeah, I've seen the only reason I bring it up is because if I'm remembering correctly, I've heard in one of the ways that to quote unquote defund and or abolish and or reform the police is to encourage community policing, in the sense that the police are, sort of required to live in the communities they police, kind of thing. So you think that either A, that's not a good idea, or B, the police would be resistant to that idea?
Police would be resistant to that idea.
Okay.
I don't think it would go over well. Plus, you can't force somebody to live in the place that they're working necessarily. It's a stipulation for a lot of companies that I used to apply for, but while you can offer incentives for people to live in the area, the commute's super short, or we'll offer you some relocation finances or whatever. While those advantages are super attractive, you have to weigh them against your own stuff, and they can't force you. And if they try to force you, then there will be a staffing issue of some sort.
Okay.
The Sausalito Police Department and the Marin County Sheriffs have agreed to host CPR and first aid training for anyone over the age of 14 that lives in Marin City.
Okay, so and my question to our speaker, if I could ask him a question, is: has the police and law enforcement's willingness to work with you dissuaded your paranoia?
That is a good question, actually. I wonder.
Yeah, I want. That's the thing I wonder, because he was talking so stridently and so with such certitude about the factors and truth of being a black man in America and interacting with police, and obviously can't speak for his childhood interactions, but in his current interactions, has his mind changed? Maybe he'll get there. I don't know. We got a couple minutes left.
They've also committed to local law enforcement doing internal training on how law enforcement interacts with African Americans who have developmental disabilities or who may be having a mental health crisis.
Why just African Americans? What is
Because Marin, this section of Marin City is primarily African American. Remember?
Well, I mean, but that kind of training, but he's talking about larger populations than just. He's talking about Sausalito and everything else. So odd to me. But also the other thing too is that I don't know. I always wonder about the usefulness in a crisis moment of having mental illness training, because if somebody is running at somebody with a knife, you don't have time to assess or really care if they're doing so out of mental illness or something else. All you see is someone's running at somebody with a knife. And those are usually the situations after the fact, in hindsight, that you find out, oh, this person had mental issues, etc. What does that mean in the moment to a police officer in a crisis situation? I still haven't gotten a clear answer to that one. Like, what do you do?
It is interesting because when you read off a person's name and information to the radio and they spit back a whole bunch of information about you, one of the things that isn't included in that list of information about the person is their medical history. You don't know what you're getting into at all. You don't know what the quality of the person's brain is that you are interacting with. You only know past experiences, maybe, like if this is a known call place, this location itself, the people itself. You only know what your database has to offer you.
Right. If there's some note that says it, maybe, but otherwise someone's medical history is still a private matter unless it's become some known element. Like, I mean, if the person you're responding to the call to is a frequent flyer and they have some kind of prior knowledge, like you say, they have a note on their account, so to speak, then maybe. But even then, what does that do for someone approaching the situation unless in context it makes sense? If you've got a crisis situation, like, and this has been brought up a lot with the whole abolish police or defund the police, is to increase social work / mental illness training and that kind of thing as a either replacement or substitute. Instead of calling a police officer for mental illness situations, you call a social worker. Like,
how would you know that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's always my question. Like, just because a call comes in, like, how would you know that it's safe to send someone who is neither trained nor mandated to use force when you don't know what's going to be happening until you get there?
Wouldn't it just be easier to train police officers on enforcing the law in cases where mental illness or disability is a factor?
Yeah, I mean, you can't, in my mind, if you're going to have a call come in and you don't have enough information because you don't have somebody there, do you want to be the first person to go there and assess the situation, be someone who either isn't armed or isn't trained to deal with a situation that requires physical force or something else, and then wait for oh, well, this is too much for me, let's call somebody else and wait another 5-10 minutes or whatever? You want to have somebody there who can be, as much as possible, I would think, the veritable Swiss Army knife within reason, to show up and assess the situation. And if you need something other than police, then you call them. But you don't want to take the risk with somebody's life or other people's lives and sending in somebody who doesn't know what they're doing first. That's my opinion. But anyway, okay. So law enforcement. So you got a commitment from the police to increase or to institute mental illness and disability training. Okay.
In addition to providing crisis centers. So instead of arresting someone who has a substance abuse problem, they will be referred to the crisis center to receive treatment.
That sounds like a big investment that you've instituted. And if it works, great. Do you not trust cops anymore? I'm still wondering.
So are we just referring people to crisis centers? We're not actually dropping them off handcuffed to the crisis centers? Like, how would that work exactly?
Yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, I don't have anything against diversionary programs. Talked about this with the article I read yesterday on a live stream. It all depends on the circumstances, of course. But diversionary programs, rather than immediate prison or incarceration, depending on the circumstances, as a first step rather than as a secondary step, I don't inherently have a problem with. So if you're going to say you find somebody on the street and they're obviously intoxicated, etc., and maybe they have a very tiny amount of drugs on them or something, it's like, okay, do I send them to jail first or say, hey, I'm going to take you to this thing? You know, I don't know how you compel them to do that without some kind of
legal, abolition of their constitutional rights and freedoms.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like, but
it gets tricky because the reason why you can take someone off to jail is because they broke the law and thus, you know, gave up their right to freedom in that instance. But they have a right to like a speedy trial and prosecution and all of that jazz. Whereas if you just institutionalize them, there's no process in place to get that ball rolling.
Well, I guess it depends on the jurisdiction. Some places have systems set up, I assume, but anyway.
This has resulted in countywide support and recognition from the Marin County Board of Supervisors on how to bring law enforcement together with communities of color to create communities that are self-sustaining and safe.
And yet, in America, Black men are still prey and expendable, I think he said it. So again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I can't help it. Does our speaker's opinion of police remain the same now as it did when he was 18?
Or 12 or 8
or whatever, and when he was in Abu Dhabi? Has it changed now when he's seen the willingness of law enforcement and those in power to work with him to find solutions, which before he told us you can't do that if you didn't start the problem in the first place?
This guy's all over the place. Not alternatively, but I have a question regarding the crisis centers that we're sending people off to. Are those state-run crisis centers, just per chance?
Well, I'm assuming they have to be paid with taxpayer money.
Okay. So then aren't they just, doubling the already obvious problem of state-run prisons that encourage the school-to-prison pipeline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
It depends on what a crisis center does. Like, what is their function? Are they there to detain people, or is it sort of like a counseling center? Is it just sort of like a glorified community? I don't know.
Well, I would assume that they make money based off of the amount of people that they have in the center, right?
Well, I would think that their budget is only justified by how much activity they get. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So would that not encourage people to just keep them there indefinitely or send them there?
I don't know. If it's not a for-profit, I mean, if it's not it's not privately run, I'm assuming, and I think that is the major complaint. Is a lot of prisons, either in their construction and or administration, are private, non-governmental agencies making a profit off of it. So a taxpayer paid for community/crisis center might be okay. I don't know. I don't know how it hashes out.
We are working towards a reimagined community, creating programs for the inner being to manifest itself outwardly.
Okay, well, if I hadn't already circled word salad, I would have just then. But I'm still wondering. Okay, so policing is improved with more community interaction, more community input, more community buy-in, and I don't disagree. Nothing about what he suggested so far sounds ridiculous to me, at least in concept. I'm still mightily curious to know if his paranoia has alleviated at all, seeing how apparently willing local law enforcement actually is to be working with him to solve problems. Because God knows, I bet you the cops would love it if crime would reduce itself by just reaching out. But of course, it's not a time for talking. It's a time for action, but you're talking with courageous conversations. Anyway. I could go on.
You could.
Such as yoga.
Oh, okay. Yoga, meditation, and healing circles. Okay, I hear healing circles and circles a lot with restorative justice practices, which seems to be peppered into this so far. But okay, after everything else, you want to do yoga, meditation, and healing circles?
I'm down with yoga. Yoga's really nice. You ever yogaed?
Have I?
Yeah, have you ever yoga?
Briefly, an ex-girlfriend of mine was really into yoga, and she tried to get me to do it a little bit, and it was a temporary situation. So I can't say I've ever actually gone to a class. I've had somebody put me through my paces a little bit. That's about it.
It's super nice.
I know the yoga pants are very
Oh, they're so comfortable. You should try a
I'll move
pair.
on. No. No, 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 no.
Meditation, healing circles for men and women, and so much more. Teaching individuals how to look inward for value and changing their life by developing a different emotional skill set.
Have you looked inward to stop feeling like you are expendable? Because that is a feeling that you are putting upon yourself, the paranoia and everything else. I'm doubtful he'll ever tell us, but again, has his experiences in working with police and administration who are willing to work with him, has that changed his opening statement? Has that changed how he speaks to his own children about encountering law enforcement now? Does he see law enforcement as something other than roving murder machines? He hasn't said that, and I'm curious as to why he hasn't said that, because so far, his past actions weren't really his fault. Police officers are terrible, despite all these examples I'm giving you where they're totally willing to work with us and change things. There's a disconnect here. It's bugging my brain. It's really bugging my brain.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
I am a Black man who has been brutalized by police.
Yes, you went at length to tell us that, okay?
I have not given up hope on myself, my community, or humanity.
What about police? Because you kind of separated them from everybody else earlier as their own little cabal.
I choose to stand in the gap and see the good in people during this unrest.
What about police officers?
No, they're excluded. Don't worry about them.
You just told us that you are prey and expendable in America. So has that changed? Do you no longer think that of yourself or automatically think that of other people who happen to look like you?
There is a commonality on both sides.
Of what? Both sides of what?
The community is using its collective voice to demand change, and I mean demand. We know there are thousands of police officers who are fed up with their fellow officers abusing their power.
You're demanding change by working with and having courageous conversations with police and officials.
Yes.
And they're doing so and pouring tax dollars into it. And do you think, and I know this might diminish your sense of power in this, but do you think you might be pushing at an open door? Like, please help us reduce crime and increase awareness and understanding between police and the community. Yeah. What can I do for you? That seems to be the message I'm getting from your own story. So why are you continuing to vilify police out of hand? I guess that's my question, which I know I won't get an answer to.
No, you won't.
But they must stand up and be active. And disrupt the system from within.
So the good cops, which are few, need to disrupt the system, which is inherently evil.
Yeah, duh.
Despite everything that you've already gone through as a teacher and activist, despite all the evidence to the contrary that you've already just listed out for us. Okay.
There's a desire for real change.
Yes.
To dismantle the system,
no.
Which is not working.
No, you've promoted so far, and I don't disagree with it, is working with the system hand in hand to improve relations and thus the communities at large, which makes sense. If you're going to talk about dismantling, you need to tell me what you're replacing it with. What replaces the police if you abolish the police? If you
yoga.
Yoga and healing circles. I'm not even kidding. That has been put forward in some of these TEDx talks and other restorative justice presentations as the answer.
Excellent. My body is ready.
Oh, next time I come across a restorative justice video, I will think of you and hold on to it for you.
Thank you.
To provide life-changing and life-giving opportunity to a system that insists on taking lives as a solution. It is my hope to share what we are doing in Marin City to start the discussion in different cities, in different states around the country.
And now, again, don't mean to diminish too much, but what you're doing is not unique. I mean, it's great for your community. It's great for your city. I'm glad that you're doing it. This is not a new idea, because it has worked in many places before. So encouraging others to do it, sure, but don't get ahead of yourself here, even though I think you already kind of have.
Do you have the courage to stand with us?
What?
I'm betting you do.
You're betting I do. Okay.
I am working towards an outcome. Will you join me?
What is that outcome?
Thank you for listening. Peace.
Okay. Well, like with so many, now at least, and I'll credit where credit is due. Unlike a lot of these presentations, he actually listed off and said he was doing something very specific and something very detailed, at least more so than a lot of other presentations, about how to address the problems he sees. However, like every story of adventure and everything else, you expect to see character development. And the one thing that I never heard from our speaker was his perspective changing on police as he grew up and his interactions changed. He said, I've only ever had 3 positive experiences in my 40 whatever years. And I'm like, but you just told us you created an entire system and network of crisis centers and courageous conversations and help and assistance and cooperation from law enforcement and administrators, but you've only ever had 3 positive experiences? Maybe his telling of his story was just poorly planned out or something, but between I'm prey, I'm hunted down, I'm expendable in this country, and I was a drug dealer and I hurt people, but it wasn't my fault because I had a bad upbringing, and now I'm a teacher and I work with all these people, but police are still part of an institution that wants to take lives because that's their only solution to problems. Very confusing.
That was so many.
But let's go to the bingo card real quick. Let me actually bring that up onto the screen so everybody can see where I'm at, and we can go on to it as a team.
Did we win?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We might get there. Okay, so there's the card as I currently have it. Let me go over it again. Okay, takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic. I mean, he associated himself with widespread racial profiling, so that's not taking credit for. So I'm hesitant on that one. Equity, he never used the word that I recall.
No, he didn't.
And in abstract, so equity in the abstract usually means equality of outcome. He never really got there. He wanted fair treatment, which doesn't quite. Toxic, no. Privilege. I mean, he alluded to it a little bit with the whole "what do you do? You don't belong in this neighborhood" thing. A little bit, but not. I'll sit on that. Contradicts own point or argument. Yeah, he just, like I said, he told us all these stories about how the local police and officials and the county government and everybody else is willing to help him and create this organization. And yet he kept saying the police are obviously there to kill people as their first solution.
Obviously.
Contradicts own point or argument. He says, I still have hope. Well, why? Well, you haven't demonstrated that you have hope. You just told us that the police are still part of an institution that is out to kill people rather than enforce the law or protect people or help people. When you just told us that they're willing to help people. Like what? Patriarchy, no. Weightless example. Did he give us an example of anything that was weightless?
He did, and you explained it, but I, for the life of me, can't remember.
Well, so his experiences as a kid aren't weightless because they help define his worldview. So those weren't weightless. His experience with the police officer in Abu Dhabi was at least on point in the sense that he, from his own perspective, saw a contrast between how police operate in one place versus how he's interacted with police before. His long biography, I don't think it was an example of anything so much as it was just him giving us his background, I guess, or how he went from point A to point B and went from the life he had lived to the life he leads now. So I guess in context, that makes some sense. I don't know. Chat, was there a weightless example that I'm forgetting? I know I brought up the term at one point, but I think I was dithering over whether it was weightless or simply just left out vital context. You tell me. Wage gap, no. Feminism, no. Marginalized, marginalization. You could make an argument, since he was talking specifically about how Black people are profiled and so on. What do you think?
I want to win, so yes.
Okay, I will take Weebo on that one. She only gets that one as a cutie. You got to fight for the others. White supremacy. Obviously, it was implied in the abstract, but not so directly. I mean, usually, when did he bring up like the majority white people thing? What was that about? Oh, I suddenly forget.
It was the community that he was living in now, I think.
Maybe.
He was in like a subset of the community that was majority white, but it was majority
Right.
Black where he was.
Yeah, but he never. Okay, but but even in sentiment, I never really got a. I mean, obviously, because his demographic is being targeted, then they're in the minority, and I'll sit on that one for a minute. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Surprisingly, he never did. At no point did I hear him speak either regretfully or anything about his past behavior. He just excused it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what this person feels like in real life. If I asked him a direct question, maybe he'd have a different answer. But at least for the sake of the presentation, he hand waved away his own responsibility in the damage that he did to people in his youth. So, no, he didn't vilify himself at all. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new in there. Usually, such a thing is predicated by something like, this is something I like to call ... or whatever. And aside from the name of the organization, which isn't a buzzword, benevolent condescension. All Black people are victims. All police officers, or well-meaning white people, all police officers are this or that, or yeah, I'm circling that one. And anecdote that probably never happened.
I don't believe he had 3 kids. Just kidding.
Yeah, of all the anecdotes he gave, I mean, so one of the problems is if you don't give enough context to an anecdote, it's hard to tell if it's true or not. So, can I believe that he was talked down to in a racialized way by a cop when he was a kid? Sure. Can I believe that he was beaten up by a cop when he was 12? Sure. Can I believe that he was profiled and targeted as a suspected drug dealer by a cop? Sure. So all those things, and the Abu Dhabi thing is just so bizarre that it sounds like it could be true, you know?
Abu Dhabi friendly cop.
Yeah, the Abu Dhabi friendly cop. I mean, I can believe it. I don't have any reason to say that, you know, it's not as blatant as the classic one. Like my 3-year-old just told me how, you know, anti-establishmentarianism is, okay, no. So, chat, if you have an argument for that, you're going to have to give me a really good one. So let me update the card one more time. So that's where we're at. I don't know that we can get to a bingo without some really good arguments. So, chat, I'm going to scroll up a little bit and see what you have to say. Let's see. Keeverdam says, how about changing it to lump self together with others in demographic? No, because the purpose for that one is something to the effect, like I did a video a while back where a lady was arguing that rap belongs to Black people. We invented it. You white people are just borrowing from us. So that kind of thing. Like we as a collective invented a thing, takes credit for something, done by others in their demographic. That kind of thing. That kind of argumentation of somehow there's a monolith working for a specific thing related to the argument or related to the presentation. That's where that comes from. So I don't think modifying it would have helped anything here. Faithless says, never explained why his dad was pulled over and he was harassed. Well, like I said, I already circled leaves out vital context. So that's been covered. That doesn't necessarily make it an anecdote that probably never happened. He would have to have given more details for us to assess its believability. And he didn't. So I'm hard pressed to say that it is something that never happened. Like I say, if you got a good argument, go for it. Let's see. Slipknot, Abu Dhabi officers waitlist to me since I don't think it happened. Well, okay, let's discuss the waitlist thing for it. Was it waitlist to his argument? In the sense that it was an example where he had an encounter with a police officer that, by his perspective, was not inherently negative. And that somehow told him that there was hope that police encounters didn't have to be terrible all the time. In that sense, it's not weightless. It tilts towards his argument, if you can give it one, that you can work towards a better relationship with police. So I can't give it weightless. Weebo, what do you think?
I don't think it really did much for the overall argumentation. Because after that, he went into discussing what he had been doing to improve relationships between the community and the police.
You know what? Now think about it. So if the fact that he never said this encounter taught me, did he say that? Oh, I got to go back.
I don't think he did.
Because, okay, so he starts out by saying, all my encounters with police are terrible except for 3, and I'm hunted and I'm a victim all the time because I'm a black man in America. And then he went on to say what he's doing in his community to improve things. And so this story about the Abu Dhabi cop is kind of sitting there. He didn't connect it, did he? He didn't really connect it to either a change in attitude or an inspiration towards something else.
I didn't get the impression that that was a useful anecdote or part of his anecdote. That, of course, the rest of his anecdote didn't really help the thing that he was arguing for at all. Anyway.
Okay, you sold me. You sold me weightless example. It was related to what he was talking about, but it didn't actually help, hinder, or otherwise shore up any of his points. Okay. Let's see. Luke Skywalker described like he was a drug dealer, making that one about pulling his pockets open weightless. We don't know if he was a drug dealer at that time. He was talking about being a drug dealer after he left home to go to North Carolina, which he never brought up again, funnily enough, after all the wife and the kids and stuff. So I'm still curious. Did he have 2 wives, or did he just meet the love of his life and then get divorced? Or does he have 6 kids or 5? Or I don't know.
6 kids, 5 kids, 3 kids.
I don't know.
2 marriages. I don't know.
Let's see. Snow Pilot, Scribelight, proposed new square. Abdication of responsibility to propose / assist in solution. Like no solution offered. I mean, that is very common, where somebody will do a whole talk and just talk about all the problems, but never come up with a clear alternative to the problem or solution or even a proposal. I will take that under consideration, Snow Pilot. Not right now. Let's see. Faithless makes a good point, Scribelight. What point did he make? He admitted to selling drugs, right? Right, okay. Let's see. Ryan, Scribelight, privilege, he can't solve it since someone else with power privilege came up with it. Oh. I don't. Yeah, we can't solve a problem that we didn't create. It's up to you to do so because you have the. It's a little abstract. I don't know. What's your reflex there, Weebo?
I want to win, so yes.
Well, people, and we didn't create the problem. Okay, but it's not going to get us to a bingo because all by itself. Okay, I'm being a little loosey-goosey here a little bit because I want to make sure Weebo comes back for another one of these at some point.
Of course.
I'm kind of describing her, but it's okay.
Can I make an argument for the self-vilification wretchedness portion?
Sure.
So when he talks about his I guess his dalliances in criminal activity, he doesn't exactly revel in those good old days. I do get the impression that he kind of feels like he fucked up a little bit, but he is blaming it on not himself necessarily, but
well, he's putting the responsibility onto his childhood. So he might feel bad about it, but he you see, when I think of self-vilification or wretchedness, it's something like the most common example in TEDx talks is some white person standing on a stage saying, I am complicit in white supremacy because of XYZ PDQ. I am a terrible being because of my skin color, or something like that, where they're making themselves, they're debasing themselves before their own inherent flaw. And that's part of they're making themselves part of the presentation because they admit they're part of whatever the problem is. I didn't get that from him in his attitude or what he said. Now, again, I'll accept arguments to the contrary, but I never got the sense that he was looking for forgiveness for what he either was or what he'd done. But but again, I can only go with what would happen in the talk. So if somebody's got, and Weebo, if you've got an argument for it, I'm hesitant, and not because like, oh, it's just going to get us a bingo. I've been pretty loose with the last couple of ones. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Ryan Skyblight, the stream was rigged from the moment you brought a white girl like Weebo, and if a dam built 200 years ago starts failing, no one can solve it since no one was alive to build it. His logic, yeah, that argument doesn't make any sense to me. That was not a good argument. One sort of Zatania Skyblight, if not privilege, it could be white supremacy. Could be. I already circled privilege, so we're not gonna try to split it. Mr. Tickleton Skyblight, his "Are You Lost" example was to show us where he'd like to get with police relations. He implied that Abu Dhabi had better no racist police, in his incorrect opinion. Yeah, but again, I don't remember him saying, because of this experience, I gained new hope for blah, blah, blah. It may be a true story. And maybe it did do that, but he never, in his own argumentation, connected the two. He just told us the story. Didn't tell us how it affected anything about his idea of what policing could be. Ryan Scribelight, my point above also applies to white supremacy, since he is saying white people have to solve all the problems since he has no power. That's also wretched vilification. Okay, well, plays victim has already been circled. Someone being a victim of their own self-hatred is one thing. Playing the victim perpetually because he's paranoid the police are always after him, that's different. That's a different thing. I didn't get the sense that he hated himself, which is the difference between self-vilification, wretchedness, and playing the victim. I know I'm being very nitpicky here, but I got to keep the sanctity of the bingo card, guys.
The sanctity of the bingo card.
That is.
If only we could make an argument for patriarchy.
Mr. Tickletrunk, Scribelight, you're right. He never directly connected them. I yield to your authority. Again, remember, guys, we have to work within the world of the presentation. It is up to the speaker to make their examples and their points work or be true or operate or whatever. So if you bring up an example and you don't make it fit in somehow with whatever you're talking about, it becomes weightless, even if, and I had to be argued into this, true, even if it contains information or details that technically relate to what you're talking about. And just a couple more, guys, and we're going to wrap this up. Dark Remedy Scribelight, he took credit for creating a program that he thinks is unique, but is nothing more than a community outreach program that exists in many places.
Hmm.
Takes credit for something done / experienced by others in their demographic. I don't know. Does that go to the same level of, we invented rap? Or I am the, I carry the weight of my ancestors on my shoulders, that kind of thing. I mean, hubris doesn't quite.
But the yoga.
Yeah, I mean, that's cultural appropriation.
There you go. That
which
works.
Which used to be a square on the board.
God damn it.
Let's see. Kieverden, he mentioned moving to a mostly white town upon moving back to the U.S. Don't know if that counts as white supremacy. Okay, you're reaching. You're reaching a bit. And Ryan, him being abused as an anecdote that relates to nothing in the subject or the rest of the talk. Well, it is an anecdote. I don't believe it's an anecdote that never happened. I don't have any reason to believe that he was lying when he said that he was abused as a kid and lived in a nasty household and everything else. Nothing about that sounded fake to me. So as a weightless example, we've already circled one for that. Can't circle that one. And Kieverdan says, Adabisi wants to read. Okay, read your argument. Okay, sorry. Adabisi, describe him being beaten as a kid didn't happen, or he'd elaborate. You mean the 12-year-old being beaten by the cops? I don't know. See, like I say, the problem with that is if you say something and leaves out vital context, that's the dividing line here. It was an anecdote that didn't give us enough context to assess what was going on or why. So it's an anecdote and leaves out vital context. But does it then become an anecdote that probably never happened? How can we say it probably never happened if we don't have the context? That's the catch-22 of that thing. You get the circle for the one, you don't get the circle for both necessarily. It could have happened. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think we get to a bingo, guys. But the thing is, not that we've gotten a bingo, but I can't really let Weebo go without at least showing her the bingo win thing.
Do it. Yes.
So Weebo, this is what happens when we do get a bingo.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, you got the bingo alert, but we did not actually reach a bingo. So any closing thoughts, Weebo, before we wrap up?
Not really. This video was a silly goose.
It was a TEDx.
Are they all like this?
No, some actually have some substance to them, and they make arguments that make some sense in some places and others don't. Some are completely empty bags. This one was all over the place. So we've encountered things like this before. I'm sure we'll encounter them again. But the next time I come across a restorative justice or restorative practices video, I'll be sure to set that one aside and hold it until you and I can get together again.
Okay.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for your attendance, your participation, and thank you so much for your generosity, those of you who donated. I'll use it for terrible things to put into my body like goldfish crackers and Jack Daniels so I can lubricate my brain from the next TEDx. Weebo, where can people find you next? Via the link to your YouTube channel and Twitter in the description.
You can find me at my channel and at my Twitter. I don't understand the question.
When can people next watch you on a live stream or something?
Oh, next Saturday, when we do cocktail hour, or you can hop in the Discord, which I guess, you know what? I could totally link that in the chat, but you can hop in the Discord, and we're supposed to do movie night this week. I don't know what movie we're watching this week, but we do bi-weekly movie / game night. So every other week it switches off. And we do that because I like to interact with my audience on a less formal, less stuffy, streamy kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll set the link to never expire.
Alrighty. And I'll be sure to include that into the description after the show.
Okie dokie.
But everyone, again, thank you so much for joining Weebo and I. Weebo, thank you so much for joining me for 2 days TEDXcellence.
Yeet.
Everyone, as always, I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. If you'd like to hear more from me or the Ranting Monkey or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find all three of us tomorrow night, Monday night, on Satsu 2 Cents' channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Lords of the Night, where we will talk about the news of the day, news stories that you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.